Okay, I love it. Hey, it's so good to meet you, Doug. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
My pleasure. Is this a half hour thing or an hour or how long does it go?
It'll be probably about 20. We'll get out in about 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. Quick
Is that
one.
cool? Okay. We'll
I'm game.
get right on. Well, it's great to meet you. I want to begin our journey into your life by asking you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was completely changing all of us, changed the world. How did you survive that era, and how has it affected the way that you live life today?
Wow. Interestingly, it didn't bother me very much. I've been doing NLP hypnosis things for years. I've been teaching classes. I've been traveling the country doing stuff. But a guy that I knew, who's a few years older than me, had taken his stuff. He had been doing all the same things, but he's taken his stuff and he'd gone online, right? And he had this online presence. And I thought, well, I want to do that. I don't want to be traveling the country all the time. I like my house. I want to be there sometimes. I like my wife. I want to see her sometimes. So I had all these plans. I'd gotten this office in Manhattan. I'd put a ring light in there, this stand-up desk, this microphone. I'd soundproofed. It was tough, but I soundproofed the room. I was ready to go, and then COVID hit, and literally abandoned ship. I just came up to this little country house that I have, and I started doing all those things on my kitchen table on a laptop. And if I wanted to have a stand-up desk effect, I had to like pile boxes and crates and stuff so I could have a sort of stand-up desk thing. So eventually, I had to retrieve all that stuff from the office in Manhattan. So I have the stand-up desk here and the ring light here and everything here, and I've just been doing what I had planned to do. It just sort of like slammed on the acceleration pedal. Just like go now. You're doing it now.
Yeah, yeah,
But
exactly.
it worked out okay. It was pretty tough go for a while. Like one of the first things that I did is I tripped over my cable to my plug for the laptop and broke it. And so I, I had to find someplace that was open that
Yeah.
would fix my laptop. I had to travel to Connecticut to get my laptop fixed.
Oh,
It was
wow.
crazy. But yeah,
Yeah.
it worked out okay. Frankly, it worked out pretty well.
So let's get a handle exactly on what you do on a daily basis. And to do that, I'm going to put you in a schoolhouse in front of 12-year-olds. It's career day, and the kid in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?"
Wow. Hey kids, thanks for asking. I'm a hypnotist. And I'm a musician, and I'm a teacher. So I teach hypnosis. I teach neurolinguistic programming. I teach an aspect of neurolinguistic programming called Sleight of Mouth, and I teach a thing called behavioring techniques, and I teach storytelling. So I teach a lot of different classes, mostly online, but some of them in person as well, still these days. And that's what I do. I have a podcast. I send out newsletters. I write books. I do lots of things.
So, as we were kind of talking before we got on officially, we were talking about music. What instrument do you play? What do you do?
I play piano. I don't know if you can
Okay.
see that in the background there, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a piano player.
Okay. So, when you were 12 years old, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Football player.
Okay.
Actually, 12, maybe I'd gone to basketball by then. But yeah, athletics was what I was into.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you start piano early on?
I started piano when I was 13.
Okay. So, let me ask you this. What were the foundational elements that have obviously made you be very right and left brain about your life? Very creative, yet helping people change the way that they think and live their lives. How did all those seeds get planted early on?
Well, it's really interesting, but I was kind of blessed with some abilities to do things, but not that great. So like I was a good athlete, but I wasn't a great athlete. I was a good basketball player, but I was not a great basketball player. I was a good musician, but I was not a great musician. And so if I wanted to be better at than I was, I discovered I had to do something that it's called practicing. I had to practice. I had to work at it. And so that becomes very left-brained. It's the creative process of just playing basketball or just playing an instrument or whatever. It's great, and you have to also have the discipline of saying, I'm going to, do these scales now, and I'm going to, left brain it and say, okay, do, one and two and three, just break it down to the elements and drill them and practice them and do them. With basketball, go to the right, go to the left. Got to use both hands. That sort of thing. You had to just practice those things. So I realized, I studied classical piano at first because nobody really taught how to play by ear in my neighborhood. And I wasn't good enough, like I said, to do it myself. So I took piano lessons. And so I really learned Mozart and all that sort of stuff. It took a while, took a few years for me to realize it's like, oh, wow, there's like a system here. There's like a music theory behind all this. And you can play a 1 chord and a 4 chord and a 5 chord and have like a blues progression. And what's improvising? It took me a while to figure all that stuff out. So then it sort of came back into the right brain, sort of, rejoined the left brain after a while. So it was kind of an interesting process to do that. With NLP and hypnosis, when I started doing this later in life, I didn't start till I was in my 30s, I started applying those same things to that practice.
Yeah.
That I would practice NLP. I would practice doing hypnosis inductions. I would take the same elements of the music training into those elements as well. So like when I wrote this book on storytelling, this User's Guide to Storytelling book,
Yeah.
it was the same thing. I was a good storyteller. A lot of NLP, a lot of hypnosis has stories in it that you tell. Tony Robbins is famous for telling stories. I was good, but I wasn't like him. I wasn't like these other people. So I said, okay, well, what can I practice? What are the elements that you can say, do this element, do that element, practice this bit to get better at it?
Yeah.
So, that's part of the reason I do what I do, is that I have that sort of element of saying, let's break it down and pray and get better at it so you can, achieve that excellence that you want, which is what I do with my coaching practice as well. I teach this to people so that they can do that for themselves.
It's almost that Malcolm Gladwell idea of
Yeah,
10,000 hours, right? You,
exactly.
you just get to that point where you just do it and it becomes rote and it's just a part of who you are. It gets
hmm
woven in. So you did answer my question about music lending into hypnotherapy. How did you get into hypnosis? What was the impulsion? Have you been under hypnosis? Did you see somebody that did it? How did this happen?
Yeah, no. I saw a hypnosis show. Most people have seen something having to do with hypnosis along the way. There was a hypnosis show in college that I saw. It was interesting. I didn't buy into it very much, but mid 1980s, I was living in New York City playing in rock and roll bands, and Tony Robbins came to town to do a firewalk experience. And now Tony was just a kid at that time. He hadn't published any books. Nobody knew who he was. But my girlfriend at the time, for whatever reason, went to this thing. It was like at a New Age festival or, something like that, New Life Expo. And his modus of marketing at that point was like, if you like the seminar, come bring your friends, come bring your family. Next time you come, bring them all, grab them, drag them here, kicking and screaming, which is exactly what she did. I was kicking and screaming all the way. But I went to this Tony Robbins event, and what he was doing in this firewalk experience was teaching the elements of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. So I learned NLP from Tony Robbins. And then it seemed like, I'll make a long story short, the more that people got in, who were really good at NLP could also do this thing called Ericksonian hypnosis. It was kind of the basis of NLP. A lot of NLP is derived from the work of Milton Erickson, Ericksonian hypnosis. So I said, well, I want to get good. Same principles of music. I want to get good at this. So if I want to be good at NLP, I want to learn Ericksonian hypnosis. If I want to be an Ericksonian, I want to be as good as I can be. So what are the elements of hypnosis that I can practice? So I sort of got in through that. And it's therapeutic hypnosis, just by the way.
Yeah.
I have traveled the country helping tons of people, thousands, tens of thousands of people quit smoking and lose weight, in these, big public seminars for that.
So who's been your hero, your inspirational force that's allowed you to do all of this and to find your place on this planet?
Oh, they are numerous. I have multiple heroes. I have heroes in the realm of storytelling. I have heroes in the realm of piano playing. I have heroes in the realm of NLP and heroes in hypnosis. I've already mentioned Milton Erickson in the hypnosis world, and Tony Robbins in the NLP world. And they've been extremely influential for me. In the musical world, some of my piano teachers were just stellar, just amazing, great people. And I don't know where I'd be without them.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you this. What is the motivation for you to wake up every day to do all of this at a high level? You're obviously delving into things that would be difficult for most people, but you've worked on it a lot. But what is that? And I'm sure you have to keep up on it. There's an evolution that goes into everything. What gets you to do that every day and to also take care of your soul and your family?
Yeah, wow. That's a great question because you know what? When I do my coaching practice, when I work with people who need coaching and I coach them, there is always that kind of block. They wouldn't be coming to me if there wasn't some sort of stumbling block, something stopping them from getting to where they want to go. And there's a difference between that intrinsic motivation that's coming from me. It's like this is why I'm motivated to do it, and some extrinsic motivations like, well, if you don't do it, I'm going to spank you or whatever, or you'll get bad grades, or you'll never make it, whatever. And we have to find that balance. One of the reasons they hire a coach is because they need somebody to say, get going, buddy. They need that extrinsic motivation. But eventually we want to make it so that it is, a fluid thing. It's so you get into the flow of stuff. For me, I love life at the moment. I like it. I like being alive. And I realize it isn't going to last forever, you know? As one of my influences along back the way, Carlos Castaneda in the Teachings of Don Juan books said, allow death to be your advisor. Tomorrow's not promised.
Yeah.
I have a quote in my drawer. I could show it to you. I've got this little quote from Mother Ann Lee, who created the Shaker religion. She was the founder of the Shakers.
Yeah.
She said, do your work, live your life as if you knew you must die tomorrow.
Yeah.
And at the same time, as if you're going to live for 1,000 years. And I try to live by that quote, because if you're going to die tomorrow, what's going to happen today? You're going to savor, oh my God, this is the freshest, cleanest water. I
Yes.
love water. This is great. Oh my God, music. Listen to that music. It's so beautiful. Oh my darling wife, I love you so much. You would treasure every moment of it. If you know you're going to live for 1,000 years, when you make that shaker box or that shaker chair, going back to the Shaker religion, the woman that said this quote, you'd make it right. You'd make that chair to last for 1,000 years, so you'd have something to sit on reliably, and you keep your stuff in your shaker box. That's why it's great antique furniture. You can get shaker chairs and shaker, to this day, and they're beautiful.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. When did you know, especially in the realm of hypnosis, that you had found your calling? Was there a moment with the client? Was there a breakthrough after you were with the client? Because we all kind of fumble sometimes through our lives to find what we're good at. It's like when you talk to the kid in college, what are you going to do? I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. You have to have time to let the wine maturate to get good. When did you know this was something that you were good at and you were making an impact?
Again, in the world of hypnosis, it was a gradual. It wasn't like a moment of like aha light bulb, but
Right.
it was a gradual thing. When I used to do those Tony Robbins events, he's full of energy. He's kind of not hypnosis. He's like go go go, yes, live with passion. But
Yeah.
there were moments in the seminars where he would do not hypnosis, but he called them closed eye processes. Because I actually didn't want to use the word hypnosis because people think, oh, he's going to hypnotize us. Now we're going to cluck like chickens,
Yeah.
kind of like the old vaudeville routine. But so he did closed eye processes, but they were my favorite part, where we would sit back and we'd imagine things and we'd float over our lives and see what the future is going to hold and go back to the past and fix something there. And I was like, I loved those things. And it also came to pass that when I learned hypnosis, I realized that all those NLP processes like that, like those closed eye processes, were hypnosis, and that the real change happens pretty much always in a state of trance of one kind or another. Whether it's a deep hypnotic trance or whether it's some sort of visualization and light trance, but it's still an altered state of one kind or another that people need to change. It's almost, to me, it's almost like when you get a new program for your computer, you've got to do the installation, but then you've got to restart the computer.
Yeah.
So you got to shut it down. You got to put it to sleep,
Yeah.
right? Basically. So it's like hypnosis. Hypnosis is the Greek word for sleep. So it's like this deep altered state that people go into, and that's where change happens, I think.
So as a pianist, what's one of the best concerts you've ever witnessed in your life? A transcendent moment.
Oh man, there are so many. I have heard Keith Jarrett play live.
Wow.
I've heard Chick Corea play live a number of times. I sat like 2 feet away from this guitarist who his name's not coming to mind right now, but he was not a piano player anyway. So, but I've heard so many. But I will tell you, there was this one concert that was so interesting. I've heard Vladimir Horowitz play live.
Wow.
I've heard Artur Rubinstein play live. But there was one, Vladimir Ashkenazi was playing this concert in Buffalo. And it was so interesting to me because there were two professors at my college that were kind of like diametrically opposed from one another. One of them was all about technique and, the, if you will, left braining it. How do you make this louder? Hit the note higher, and the other one was all about the emotion, the right brain, the feeling of it. And they were kind of like diametrically opposed from each other. The students didn't even get along. They were like two armed camps kind of thing. But they both went to this concert of Vladimir Ashkenazi where he was playing some Beethoven sonatas. And I swear to God, I couldn't believe I saw this, but I was up in the balcony of the, out in the lobby balcony, and I saw them from across the balcony floor, whatever, I'm sorry, the lobby floor. They saw each other from across the floor and they ran to each other and embraced each other. And they both said, "It can be done." As if these two elements were finally actually being, put together and
Yeah.
integrated by this one performer, Vladimir Ashkenazi, who played with great technique, incredible technique, but, such deep emotion, and every inner voice could be heard so beautifully. It was just,
Yeah.
oh,
That's
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So let me ask you this. If you were to run into your 18-year-old self in a dream tonight, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've chosen, the wisdom you've accumulated over this time, what advice would you impart?
I've actually thought about that before. I usually go a little younger than 18, but I'd like to get started at playing piano better earlier.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So 18, whether it be that, it'll be like junior year in college,
Yeah.
a fresh sophomore maybe.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'd say quit doing drugs. It's,
Right. Right. Yep.
I'd just say, you've had enough.
That's it.
No,
Yeah.
good. You've learned what you need to learn. Just stop. I do that much sooner than I actually
Yeah.
eventually did. Um, but yeah, I would just say, listen, you're on the right path. Just, have a closer appreciation of all that's here. Have lunch with your dad. Listen to them. They're still alive and they're pretty smart if you listen to them, and be open to that. I would say appreciate what is happening now, and not just like planning for the future only. Because I was so driven to get into the best music school and do the best thing that I could at 18. I said, smell the flowers here a little bit. Life's good, and it doesn't last forever. That death be an advisor thing. But I'd also say, and at the same time, listen to your teachers.
Yeah.
When they say to practice those scales, there's a reason for that. You want to do that. So I would probably also give him some jazz advice because at that point, I'm still working out the how to listen from
Right.
music instead of just getting up from the page and playing the right notes at the right time.
Totally. So, of everything that you've done, accomplished, and evolved to at this point, what are you the proudest of?
What am I the most proud of? I hate answering questions like that. There's a series of questions that Tony Robbins put out that I think are brilliant, where you say, "What am I most proud of?" and "What is it about it that makes you proud?" and then "How does it make you feel?" But then there's always the follow-up, like, "What else are you most proud of?" Because there's a lot of things I'm proud of. I'm proud of this book, The User's Guide to
Absolutely.
Storytelling. I'm proud of The User's Guide to Sleight of Mouth, my first book. I'm proud of being able to take things that are complex for people and simplify them enough that they can do it too. I'm proud of, students that I've had that have become pianists. I'm proud of, being able to influence people and help thousands of people quit smoking because that's, they're killing themselves with that. And so I'm proud of the fact that I've been able to literally help thousands of people, quit bad habits. Smoking is just one of them, but
Yeah.
drugs, various kinds, alcohol, things like that. I'm really proud of the ability to help people overcome some challenges that they've had in their lives.
Speaking of storytelling, who is one of your favorite storytellers?
Well, the list starts. One of my most influentials was Garrison Keillor from
Okay.
Prairie
Light
Home
bulb gun.
Companion. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love his stuff. But Milton Erickson, Tony Robbins, Dave Dobson, all these NLP and hypnosis teachers they all taught by stories, parables, teaching tales, therapeutic metaphors. They're all stories, and they're all wonderful storytellers. But when it comes to this, the idea of the, storytelling for storytelling's sake, then, Garrison Keillor certainly was my first introduction to like, wow, you can do that. You can do storytelling
Yeah.
as a thing, and people like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and
I
it's
love
funny because
listening.
the first time I ever listened to him, I was actually painting my apartment in Brooklyn, and I had crawled behind the space because I was trying to get to the space that I couldn't paint. So it was really hard to get out of that space. So the radio was on. I was listening to something, and then the Garrison Keillor show came on, and I would have turned the channel real quick.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get to the radio. So that's fine. I'll just leave it. But and then when he started talking and do the news from Lake Wobegon, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
what's that?
Yeah.
And I just listened and it was like, holy crap, that's good. I like that.
I love you. I love that you said that because I used to listen to him all the time. And even sometimes when I couldn't really hear exactly what he was saying, the meter and the way his voice
Yeah.
modulated, it was
Yeah.
like listening to Bob Ross paint a painting. It's just like
Yes.
hypnosis. It's like natural hypnosis. It's
It
wonderful.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, storytelling is hypnosis for sure. It creates an altered state. People get lost in their visualizing of what the story is telling them to do, and it's all happening inside their heads.
Uh-huh.
So they're in this altered state. It's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, Doug, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm an explorer. I'm just a guy who's doing the best he can with the resources he has. Trying to make the world a better place. One step at a time.
So if anybody wants to get your book, if you want to hold it up again and any of your previous work, where's the best place for people to go or hire you or any of the good business?
Yeah,
Yes.
User's Guide to Storytelling, User's Guide to Sleight of Mouth, and my two books. They're both available on Amazon, of course. But you can go to my website. Frankly, anybody can Google Doug O'Brien and they'll find me. I'm not the hockey player, but Doug O'Brien on Google. Doug O'Brien Hypnosis. Essential Coaching Skills is probably the best place to go, essentialcoachingskills.com.
Okay.
I also have an Essential Coaching Skills podcast, but Essential Coaching Skills is where you can get that book. And if you don't want the hardcover book or the physical book, Essential Coaching Skills is where you can also download a PDF that, unlike the Kindle version is all black and white and stuff. The real book and the book the PDF you can get on my website is all full color with lots of illustrations, and it really changes the experience of it to have that color and illustrations in there.
For sure. Well, I will put all these links in the show notes. Doug, it's so great to arc into your orbit for a little bit. Thank you so much for taking a minute out. I appreciate it, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thank you.